Qualitative research. Assuming that I'm a manufacturer for small kitchen electronics like Hamilton Beach or Proctor Silex that make things like blenders and other small appliances. So blenders, mixers, um, popcorn makers, these kinds of things. I have seen in the European market that there are some really innovative designs, unusual shapes and colors, and I'm curious if they will be successful in the US market. So, in that situation, looking at qualitative research, what I would look to do, because qualitative research is going to give us a lot more information as far as why and looking at whys. So, I would look to use virtual focus groups from different regional areas. So, potentially utilizing social media to reach out to different areas, also reaching out to customers that have registered their products previously and look to get multiple groups of roughly 15 to 20 people in different geographical areas. So if the US is broken into, say, 8 or 9 different regional areas, I would look for a focus group, at least one in each area. And questions I would ask, I would basically present them with pictures or images of some of these different designs that we've seen in the European market that have been successful, and ask them how they feel when they see that design. Ask them if they would like to see it in their kitchen, if they could see themselves using it, and ask them what they like about it, how they feel, and then also look at asking them questions as far as why they bought the purchases that they did make. So if I'm reaching out to customers that had made a prior purchase of a blender, I would ask them, why did they choose that color? Why did they choose that model? Was it because of the size? Was it because of the aesthetic and these kinds of different things? I would have some questions in there that sort of help them with the why. So, offering an option of, I chose this blender because it looks nice, or I chose this blender because it came in a purple color and my kitchen colors are purple, or my question might be more like, I chose this color because it matches my kitchen, but also having open-ended questions where they could choose other and put more information in there, because we are looking to get more of the why. And that's how I would look to understand my customers, what the why is behind their purchasing habits with those kitchen items, and then see how that would apply with those unusual shapes and colors and designs, as well as asking how they feel and how they respond to seeing those actual example images of those products. Observational research. We saw with Amazon's Kindle that it was much more successful than the competitor that Sony, the product that its competitor Sony produced. Now, there was definitely influence by the Oprah factor, because the Kindle was first introduced on the Oprah show, and Oprah strongly endorsed it. She has Oprah's book club and has quite a following for that, as well as giving out products on her show. So the original Kindle did have some physical problems. Looks like they were button placement, page turning speed, and the manufacturers corrected those problems to have a more successful item in the Kindle 2, and then which got great reviews, and then later the Kindle Fire. So when we look at what the observational research could have been to help with that redesign of the original Kindle, like how did the manufacturers know what to do, what changes to make? They had a perfect opportunity with the way that launched and Oprah's endorsement that they could observe how users were actually using it. So whether they did that by having video and watching video of the users in the audience as they're opening their Kindle up and, you know, like trying to turn it around and see how it works. Then they could also see how that works. They could have also planted researchers in the audience to, you know, kind of sit and watch and see what people were doing around them. Kind of a good example of how that might work. I don't have a Kindle, but I do have this really cool electronic gadget. It's a second monitor. And so if these were handed out in an audience and people are kind of like confused, they don't know how to open it, or they're struggling with where, you know, how does it work, and how it works is it slides out like this, and then you attach it to the back of your laptop and have a second monitor. So if people are immediately seeing, oh yeah, that's how I, you know, they're immediately intuitive in sliding this out and working it, then that tells the researchers as they're observing it that that's their understanding it. But if they're struggling with like one side or the other, in the example of the Kindle, if they're struggling with the button placement, or they're, you know, hitting the button multiple times to turn the page, then that's perfect opportunity for them to observe. This is what customers or users are doing with their Kindle. They're hitting the button multiple times, which tells us that the page turning speed is too slow, or the placement of the button, if they're struggling for where to find the button. You know, if they're pressing up here and the button's down here, then that would be a good example of the observational research that they can do with people in that audience.